Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to the show. This week we have someone that I truly personally admire myself in both personal and business matters, and you will see why when you hear her story and see everything that she's been able to do and what they do in the community. Her name is Imane Rose, and she operates Purview Life. They are I believe in Tulsa and in Oklahoma City right now. And I'll let her tell you what they do, but I wanted to bring her on because number one, she makes things happen, and you want to be surrounded by people who make things happen, no matter what the obstacle is. And I like to be around people who are courageous enough to dream and go after those dreams and make them happen when other people don't see them. And you will see that with Imane. So Imane, are you there?
I am here. Hi, Clarence. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you're super busy, and for calling in. Tell us about Purview Life and how you're helping your clients.
Well, I am more than happy to tell you about Purview Life. As everybody knows, I'm sure most everyone has heard about the silver tsunami that's coming our way. The aging population, the baby boomers who are aging at a rapid rate. We're talking about 10,000 people turning 65 every single day in the United States. 10,000 people, Clarence, every single day are turning 65 from now until 19 years from now. So we can safely say that we have a major change in our demographic landscape. Not only is the demographic landscape changing, but the longevity is happening as well. So we have all of these people that are aging and they are living longer. So about 10 years ago, I was working at a home care agency, and I trust that most of your listeners know what home care is. People that are very good at going into the home and helping the elderly with daily activities for living, like bathing, cooking, cleaning, just basic everyday needs. Mm-hmm. And as I was, researching, I kept coming across this care management concept. And it really intrigued me because I felt that we were very limited in the way that we were about to address our aging demographics. And I felt like we were solving new problems with old thinking. So the more that I kept diving and delving into this care management, the more that it made sense and the more value that I saw in what it can bring to people's lives, because it is a very comprehensive way of looking at the aging and special needs process. So what we do is we are very much like that general contractor when you go build a house. People who are faced with elder issues or special needs issues are doing everything they can to make their life as tolerable as possible with their new realities. And there are a lot of good people out there. There are a lot of people who are trying their very best, from doctors to facilities to counselors. But everybody is operating in their own little silo. And unfortunately, in the litigious society that we live in, everyone has so many sets of rules and regulations that they have to go by. So I feel like everybody has their hands tied behind their back in one fashion or another. So Purview Life is completely independent. We are not affiliated with any other industry. We're not affiliated with doctors, facilities, lawyers, insurance companies. So the beauty of the way that we approach solving issues is that when someone hires us, it is very much like hiring a general contractor when you go build a house. And all of these other people I was talking about, they are your subcontractors. So imagine you going to build a house and you have to personally deal with the electrician, with the cabinet maker, with the concrete people, you name it. Can you imagine what your experience in building your house would be like? It would be frustrating because you don't even know the electrical code, for instance. Are they really complying with it or not? So that house building experience would have been so stressful without a general contractor who knows how to manage everyone involved. So that is what Purview Life is. We are very much like that general contractor. When people come to us, we put our arm around the entire process. We manage everyone and everything involved from A to Z. And when we get involved, we have one objective in mind. How do we make your life the best life possible? How do we give you the best quality of life given your circumstances, no matter what your circumstances are? Because it is what it is in many cases. For instance, we cannot eliminate Alzheimer's, but boy, can we ever give you the best life possible. Yes, we're trying to maintain as much of your dignity, your independence in some cases. And the beauty of what we do is that not only do we take care of the client, but we help manage the family's emotions as well, because that client is not living in a bubble in a lot of cases. Now, we do have a lot of elder orphans in this world as well, and that's what the silver tsunami is bringing with it. But for the most part, that client is being affected themselves by whatever condition they may have, whether it's mental, physical, or whatever challenge they have. They're being affected by it, but so the family is being affected by it. The friends are being affected by it. So what I really cherish is that we can help everyone involved. And a lot of times, managing those emotions, it's really the crucial part of what we do. Because our nurses, our social workers, they're very experienced, very skilled. They have all the credentials that they need to take care of the pragmatic, clinical, social issues. But where they really shine is managing people's emotions. And that's really half the battle right there. So, Purview Life is your go-to person for any and all elder care or special needs issues, no matter how simple or complicated, no matter whether it's medical or non-medical. So we do everything from decision support. Sometimes people just want to know that they're doing the right thing, because I've heard, conflicting opinions, again, from the silos that we talked about before. They just want decision support. They want validation. They want a sounding board. They want someone who really is objective, as we are. We can be the biggest advocate. We go with, to people with doctor's appointments. We manage all of their medical issues as well as their social issues. We can be somebody's healthcare power of attorney. I have a daughter who is brilliant, and I would want her to be my healthcare power of attorney, because she will drive the doctors crazy, because she's an engineer and she won't leave an I that is not dotted or a T that is not crossed. However, she lives in Houston. So I have Purview Life appointed as my healthcare power of attorney first and her second. They can, my company can step in to help me in case of an emergency. And when she gets here, she can also get involved, so we can be a legal healthcare power of attorney. And lastly, and sadly, we can be somebody's guardian. Unfortunately, elder financial abuse and exploitation is a bigger problem in our community than anyone realizes. And we are just about filled up being people's guardians, because someone has to step in. Someone has to save these elderly that work a lifetime. And now they're being financially exploited, and we don't want to see that happen. So thankfully, we have really built an impeccable reputation in the Tulsa area. And thankfully, the legal world trusts us and believes in our reports and our discoveries. And hand in hand, we can safeguard the elderly.
With that, you said your daughter's in Houston, and I know a lot of people nowadays find that the case. People don't necessarily settle in one town like they used to decades ago.
Mayberry days are long gone, aren't they?
You're right. So the kids grow up, spread all across the world, actually. And so what are the advantages when you're helping elderly live the best life possible? A lot of times these are their daughters and sometimes sons that you're helping. I mean, what's the advantage that they have when they use a service like Purview Life?
There are so many advantages. Number one, we can be their eyes and ears. So the advantage is we reduce their guilt to almost nothing in many cases. So you have these loving sons or daughters who absolutely cannot be geographically close to mom. Mom does not really want to uproot herself and go. She has her church friends. She has her life established here. And furthermore, a lot of people, that our sons and daughters are very, very transient. So they travel a lot. So we have a lot of the elderly parents going, well, I would move by them, but what am I going to do? Pack a suitcase every time he changes jobs, or every time he gets a promotion, or every time she gets an opportunity. So you have this, sometimes they want to be close, but it's objectively difficult and sometimes objectively impossible. So these children, these adult children that don't live close to mom and know that mom needs help, they are guilt-ridden. And they really sometimes don't even sleep at night. So the advantage of them hiring us is they know that they have the best possible situation, because they're not just having the next door neighbor looking on mom. And we want as many people looking in on mom as possible. Believe me, we want all eyes to be on mom. But there's a difference between having the next door neighbor or the church friend looking in on mom who's in her late 80s and one of my nurses looking in on mom, because what the nurses can see, a layperson cannot see. So I can go and visit somebody and I can think that they're doing just fine. And this has happened to where I went to visit a client with one of our care managers, and she immediately was alarmed by his physical appearance, the white in his eyes. I mean, you name it, they can pick it out. I don't know how, but they do. And she was able to immediately get him help and avoid the catastrophe. So the advantage is you have an expert who's helping you. You have someone that mom likes and trusts. You can sleep at night because we're emailing you, updating you, telling you what her conditions are, what measures have been taken, and you love that as a child who doesn't live by. You actually, after reading our email, we get so many thank you, I can sleep tonight. Thank you, that is so good to know. Oh my goodness, thank you, you stepped in. I'm so glad you went to see her today. It was, divine intervention as well as your intervention that saved us from having to be in the hospital for 10 days. So those are the advantages.
So when it comes to caring for elderly, as your parents get older and you want them to live the best life they possibly can, what are some of the myths that you have found that are out there in helping someone actually, live their best life in those last years?
Well, one of my very favorite, and one that we hear all the time, is, oh, they'll never let you in. Oh, they will never want your help. Oh, no. They're very proud, independent people, and they won't. I'll be surprised if they'll even open the door for you. And I will tell you that that is one of the biggest myths. And I think the reason it is because, as children, we look at our parents as the tower of power. And now that they're no longer the tower of power, we actually don't know how to adjust to that new reality. When we come in fresh, we don't have any of those expectations, and they're more likely to open up to us and be more frank with us and not show their vulnerability, because they also are in a new role. So the children are suggesting a change during a time of their life when change is the hardest. And we come in with a different approach. We come in with a professional, expert way of knowing how to address them, how to get them to open the door, how to get them to open up. So I think that that is one of the biggest myths that I hear all the time. And I am just so incredibly lucky and blessed that we have a really high success rate in that area. We shock most people. The other myth is, they wouldn't want to pay for your services because we are a fee-for-service company. Or sometimes they say, I think we can manage. I think, they just got the diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia. I think they'll be okay for a while. So people hesitate to spend the money because they do not understand the value that they're going to get for that money. So can I share a story with you about that?
Yes, absolutely.
So, recently, back in September, we recommended that the children become a guardian of this particular gentleman because he definitely was having cognitive impairments and dementia. And we could see that it was kind of progressing pretty rapidly. Well, again, the children love their dad. They honor their dad, and they feel that by just letting him be independent is the good thing to do. Well, lo and behold, fast forward from September till December, and now we have a big legal issue because dad, who had been an ex-military, law-abiding citizen, a straight-laced person, pointed the gun at his neighbor. So now we have legal issues. Now a perpetrator has moved in with dad. Now dad has taken a second mortgage on all of his rental properties. So the myth of I don't know if I should pay for these services or not. I don't know if I should get your help or not. Think of the outcome had we all acted in unison back in September. This probably would not have happened. Most likely, having spent the money on the front end was a fraction of the money that is spent by the family on criminal defense lawyers, on now trying to see, we don't even know how much money dad has at this point in time because of the perpetrator who moved in with him. So that is a second big myth, is that we don't want to spend the money. But I'm telling you, Clarence, I can write a book on how spending the money is the kindest and best thing you can do in these situations. So I think those are, the two really big myths. And the third one is like people still don't understand the concept. So sometimes they just think we're home care, but I try really hard to clarify that. And I think we're getting there in Tulsa. I think the community is embracing the concept of care management, of how inclusive and comprehensive it is. So those are the biggest myths, is that especially when it comes to they're not going to let you help and, we don't know if we should spend the money or not.
Great. Thank you. That's what I was going to ask next, is the misconceptions that people have about your industry and what you do. And you said many people feel that you're home care, but you're not. Give us the difference there.
Well, again, home care is just one spoke in the wheel of caring for someone. It's a necessary service. We, like a lot of home care agencies in town, we help families find the right fit for them with the home care agencies. We also help the families manage the home care agencies. For instance, we used my daughter as an example again. Let's just say that I needed home care and she's not here. Well, she doesn't know. She doesn't know who to call. She doesn't know whether that home care agency is going to be a good fit or not. She doesn't know what kind of caregivers they have. So because we have incredible knowledge on all of the different agencies, it's part of what we do. We have to connect people with the right resources. We interview the home care agencies. We look at the plan of care that they're recommending for the client. We work hand in hand together. There's no competition by any stretch of the imagination, as people might imagine. But, we work with them. We work with their director of nursing. And together we agree on what is best for this client. And if by some chance, somebody gets sick, that director of nursing goes on vacation, something happens to where the daughter is upset, then we can handle it. And we typically can get a really good response because we have a professional relationship with the people and we're not emotional. So we get to the bottom of things right away and we get to a solution right away. So home care is, again, just a spoke in that big wheel of elder care where someone's going to come into the home. They're going to change your bed sheets. They're going to fix you a meal. They're going to do very light housekeeping. They're going to read you a book. So they're more like, the caregivers. We're care managers and they're caregivers. If that makes sense. Does that clarify it at all?
Yes, it does. In fact, when I listen to it and think about it, it is kind of like it's an extension of me.
Right.
If
it's an extension of you that is an expert.
Right,
so,
there it is. That's it.
So, hey, no offense, it might be a better extension of you.
Right, at least definitely on on this
front.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that all the time. I mean, we hire attorneys who are more knowledgeable at a particular part of law to help us out. I think as a business owner, definitely I can relate to this more because we work with so many different people who are experts in what they do, and we understand that we can't do everything.
Well, if I may, Clarence, another myth came to mind that I really would like to share with you and the audience, if that's possible.
Yes.
A lot of times, people say, well, that's really fine and great. I'm so glad that your service is here, but we really want to take care of our own. And you do not know how much I honor that and how much I appreciate that. I want to take care of my mom as well. But the myth is that if we get involved, we're going to help you help mom. And what really made me think of this is you saying we go to attorneys. So let's just say if mom is in legal trouble, would you not go to an attorney to help you help her? Of course you would. You're not going to do it yourself. You're not going to sit on the internet for 50 hours to try and get a law degree in a week. So this is really no different. We help you help mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same concept. So thank you for highlighting that this profession is really no different than other service provider professions. It's the same thing. And when people allow us to help them help mom, oh my goodness. They not only help mom, but they also have a little bit of time to be a daughter now.
That's one of the big things that I heard you say, and it resonated with me. Not that I'm a daughter, but I saw that how my wife cared for her mother, and you said we help you be more daughter than doer, or something like that.
Yeah, because often when that loved one passes away, you're having these memories of how intense it was, how hard you had to work to figure things out, how you really had no time to just sit down and hold her hand and read her a book, read her a verse from the Bible, do things that connect you in those, latter years. Instead, you're remembering all of the hustle and bustle and the stress and the, did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right thing? Could I have done it differently if I could? Oh my goodness, only if I would have known better. We eliminate all of that. We help you be the best caretaker as well as continue to be a daughter. So you have memories and fond memories rather than stressful ones.
So what are some of the fears? I mean, we've got all these benefits, so there's got to be some fears that people have in allowing you in their life like this. I mean, and allowing your service in hiring. So, I mean, what are some of the fears that they may have?
Well, I think the fear is that they may appear weak, or they may appear not up to the task, or they may appear non-caring because they're not the ones doing it, or they may appear as, they're not going to get the Daughter or Son of the Year award because somebody else is helping. So I think that is one fear. The other fear is, how are the parents going to perceive them getting help for the parents? And we talked about that earlier about, they're not going to let you in and all of that, which really we blow a hole in every single one of these fears once we get involved. And I think more than fear, actually, Clarence, when I really think about it, it's just the lack of education about this profession. And that is on us, which is we work really hard to try and take every opportunity we get to present the facts and the benefits to the public, so that if and when they need the service, they know that at least it exists. So I think there are some fears, but really, from my perspective, more than fears, it's the lack of knowing. And people don't know what they don't know. Because if I could get a penny for every time somebody said, where have you been all my life? Or, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known about you a year ago. Or, my goodness, I wish I would have known about you when we were going through this with Grandpa. If I could get a penny for every time I've heard that in the last 10 years, I may be on a cruise right now.
Does anyone ever think that maybe it doesn't work, or maybe they don't have the time to even police you, or I know you're out of that home care. You're not that home care thing, but there's so many nightmares that we hear of people when they're dealing with elderly. And I know that's part of your crusade to stop. But if I am a person that does not know you, is that a rational fear that I have?
Well, you're always wondering if anybody's going to make a difference because you feel like you're in the weeds so much. And I think the only time it does not work, to be honest, is when people don't want to hear what they don't want to hear. They're not ready to hear it. So if it does not work, it's typically because they're not ready to receive the advice that we're giving them because they're still in denial. But we are aware of that. We are persistent. And we understand that it's a process. And even if we come to an agreement that maybe this is not working, we leave them with enough information that, believe it or not, they have been known to come back to us months later and go, yeah, you were right. But it took them a moment to digest it. It wasn't the right time for them to hear it. Like, for instance, we went into a home where we were called because the children wanted us to meet mom and recommend a memory unit for mom. It was clear that mom had dementia. The diagnosis was there. They were just getting our advice on what's the best placement for mom. While when my care manager was there, she kept observing the dad, and she really suspected suspected that the dad may also have cognitive impairments. And she, did and said a couple of things and interacted with dad just enough to be suspicious. She alerted the children. While the children were so focused on mom and her issues, that dad's issues, believe it or not, completely escaped them. But because they were not ready to hear it at that time, they literally got mad at my care manager and fired her. How could she say that about dad? How could she even suspect that about dad? Well, 2 or 3 months later, they called back and apologized and said, you were right. You were right. We just didn't see it at the time. So I think the times that it doesn't work is times like that, times when people are just not ready to hear it and they're not given us enough of an opportunity, which again, we try really hard to create the process. That's when it really doesn't work. But for the most part, it really does work. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but it is true. There's no reason for it not to work.
Yeah, that makes sense. So to get past the fear, it's just taking that step and going down. I mean, you really don't have much to lose, I don't think. So,
no. You really don't. You really don't. I do not believe that there are cases where it just doesn't work just because it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Because if there is smoke, there's fire, right? So if we get there when there's smoke, we're going to address it and it's going to be better. If we get there when there's fire, we're going to put that fire out. The only time we can't put the fire out is if you won't, let us in the door, or you won't listen to what we have to say. But other than that, there is no reason for this to not be helpful in most cases.
Do you find that a lot of people kind of feel like this is a luxury service?
Yeah, sometimes. It depends on how, I know that you laugh when I've told you before that people don't change because they see the light. People change because they feel the heat. So it depends on how much heat they're in. If they're barely, they may look at it as a luxury because they're still not sure what value does it bring. We already have home care in place, and we're going to wait. Kind of like that example I gave before. Oh, they just got the diagnosis of dementia. They'll be okay for a while. So that's when that takes place. Now, when people are enough heat, no, there is no question that they don't even think about it. They're like, I don't care. What do you want? What do you need? Again, the example we gave of the guy that earlier, that we recommended the guardianship in September. Maybe it's too much. Maybe it's a luxury. Maybe we don't need it. Well, guess what? Now that they're in the thick of things, they need it, and they don't even question whether or not it's a luxury. It becomes a necessity because now it is clear to them that is beyond their capacity. So can I shed the light on that one, for instance? Mm-hmm. So, we're going to go in and we're going to talk to dad and we're going to explain to him this, that, and the other. And once we start talking to them and say, look, it's not fair to dad, because if his executive functioning, which is your ability to string events together and attach the outcome to the events, if that is really jeopardized, it's not kind or fair to him to think that you're going to go in and explain this and he's going to come to a reasonable understanding, because he no longer has the capacity to have that reasonable understanding. So you are wasting your breath and putting him in an uncomfortable position, because he can no longer do that. Oh my goodness, what an epiphany. We're going to go in with a different approach. Yeah, we're going to go in with a different approach, because the approach that you're thinking about is not going to get you anywhere. To go in and explain that we're going to sell the house, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. And then, when dad tells you to butt out of his business and how dare you tell me what to do, and no, you're not looking at my numbers, then you don't understand why he got mad at you. So when when we get involved and we explain that that is no longer an option, we know you think that you're talking to the old dad who was a CPA and he can understand all these numbers, but he doesn't anymore. So now we have to change strategies. And when we change strategies, we get better results.
Absolutely. Sounds like a story. Sounds kind of like when I asked my mom to put all of her budget down and her spending. I think there's something that happens when your child comes up to you and says, I need into all of your accounts and to know what you've been doing, you know.
Oh, did she tell you how dare you? I changed your diapers?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, so, and that was a mistake in my approach, just like what you just said. So, I mean, what are some of the other mistakes that you find that we make when we're caring for aging parents?
You know, sometimes, and I know that I really love this. And I think it was Dr. Bill Thomas, who's a geriatrician and a pioneer in wanting to change the way that we approach elder care. I think he said it perfectly. He said, you know, when emotions rise, intelligence drops. And there is no question in my mind about that, because I see children wanting their parents to do things that are really not reasonable. I mean, it is to the point to where there is a YouTube from one of the care managers, and she talks about this daughter that came into her office. Her mom is with a walker, is walking into the office with a walker, and she told the care manager that she wants her mom to exercise 3 times a week. Now, wait a minute. You know, that is not reasonable, and it's not fair to mom. Or I want you to make mom go down to bingo at the independent living facility at least 2 times a week. Well, okay, let's review. On her best, useful, vibrant days, mom was a bit of a recluse. And now you want to force her to do this? And that's not right. That's not fair. So I think very well-meaning, great heart, great intentions, but really unreasonable, because the emotions have risen so high that the intelligence has dropped.
Wow, that's close. You know, yeah, wow. Because I brought my mom like a gym almost.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
No, I mean, it's just human nature, and none of this is intended as a criticism by any stretch of the imagination. It's just shedding a light. And I mean, because we are emotional beings, and we love our parents, and we love, you know, we didn't really talk enough about the special needs, you know, but that's another epidemic. To where you have now these parents who are in their 80s. They've had a special needs child their entire life. The special needs child is in his 50s now. And these parents are panicked about what's going to happen to the special needs child when they pass away, because no one else wants to deal with it. So that's another area where we can come in and we can help. And, you know, even though Clarence elder care is absolutely a specialty of ours, but honestly, special needs, it has been really, really rising. Like, you know, I cannot believe the amount of calls we get about special needs. And we deal with anyone who's 18 and over. We don't do any pediatrics. If I mention anyone under the age of 18, my nurses want to hide under their desks. They don't want to do that, because we believe in drilling deeper into our skill sets and really mastering our craft. And that is elder care and special needs. And anyone who's 18 and over with a special need, we can also help manage their life. So we are called aging life care managers for a reason, because we do manage people's lives.
So the only way to avoid these pitfalls, and really in our conversation today, I mean, it's just coming out to me how common these mistakes are. Is there a way to avoid them other than seeking professional help like your service? I mean, like, if you were...
I mean, Obviously, you can get some self-help books, you can go online, you can look, you can read. But if I may, Clarence, I think the reason that we're in the position we're in is because if you really think about our generation, yours and mine, I know you're younger than I am, but I just turned 60. and a lot of the baby boomers are the ones who are going to need the help coming up. They're the silver tsunami. However, at the moment, it's a mixture of baby boomers who are taking care of their parents and need help themselves. But let me tell you why we are in this position as a society. Think about it. When we became parents, we had parents that showed us how to be parents, whether we agreed with their method or not. But generation after generation, we had parents, we had grandparents, and they showed us how to be a parent. Now, if we look at our parents, how they took care of their elderly, it is not the same thing. We are that pivotal generation because their parents lived and died in 2 to 5 years. Our parents are going to live and die in 20. So the reason that we have all of these pitfalls, not only because we're emotional beings and emotions get in the way, but because we're the very first generation that is that sandwich generation that is facing these issues. So to answer your questions, what can you do? I mean, there are a lot of seminars that people put on. There's a lot of information out there, and you can go that route. And if you have all the time in the world, by all means, at the end of the day, your knowledge level is only going to go so far. So it'll be the same question you would ask a business owner. How would you avoid business failure pitfalls in, complying with the law and like filing your taxes at the right time and all of that? Well, you have to ask an expert, even if you just get their opinion and do it yourself, which that can happen with us as well. We can go into a situation, we can take an x-ray of what's really going on, we can give you a roadmap and say, here you go ahead, do it. It's not like we have to be the doers all the time. We can be the suggesting party, but it's the same thing. Like, you get enough information off the internet, you ask enough of experts, and then if you feel like you want to do it yourself, you can. But to avoid the pitfalls is to know when to stop yourself and know, okay, my knowledge level, my abilities have hit a wall here. Now I need to reach back out to an expert, whomever the expert may be. Could be your psychiatrist. It could be, I don't know who, the neurologist or whatever. To avoid the pitfall is to know that this is not a DIY at all times. And again, because of our generation that's never been in this position before, it's easy for us to think it's a DIY. It's a do-it-yourself thing, and we want to do it ourselves. And again, our emotions want to be the good daughter, the good son. And then we hit brick walls, and we don't even know we're hitting them till we're bleeding, and we wonder why we're bleeding. So I think just recognizing, acknowledgement is always the first step, just recognizing that we are that generation, that we may need to reach out for help a little more than previous generations in these matters might be a good way to avoid pitfalls.
So you shared several stories. Can you share one where you've helped your clients overcome all of these obstacles that we've been talking about and help them succeed in caring for their parent, their loved one?
Yeah, I think, there are so many stories on so many fronts. Again, changing the approach. One of the simplest stories I can give you is a daughter that came in here in tears to our office because her mom just got a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. And she was just so overtaken by the new reality and she was having difficulties communicating with her mom. And my care manager just looked at her and said, would you like for me to write you a script on how to talk to her about this particular topic? And she goes, oh my goodness, that would be wonderful. So just writing the script helped the daughter actually be less frustrated, helped the mother be less frustrated. So that's one pitfall she was able to avoid, which is going round and round and round like a hamster in a wheel, doing the same things and not getting the right results. so, that is one way. Another way that we can avoid pitfall in the advocacy, people don't know what they don't know again. Like, for instance, my care manager was helping one of our clients who unfortunately had several cancer diagnoses at the same time. So, they would go to lab A, they would do the lab, they would go to the doctor, then the next day they would have to go to someone else, and that someone else wants to do the same lab work. And, I would, okay, we need to draw blood again to that, I would just stick my arm out to where when my care manager's there, like, no, wait a minute. We did that yesterday. Oh, we will not take those tests. Oh, yes, please. I insist. And with her finesse and with her logic, she's able to avoid unnecessary procedures. If you're 93 years old and we're the guardian of someone and they're recommending that we do a colonoscopy, we say no. So these are pitfalls that we can avoid with advocacy. Or somebody is a veteran and they come to us and they're paying out of pocket for services that the veteran is really didn't realize that they can get help from the VA for those services. We can send them in that direction as well. So these are the advocacy pitfalls that actually end up saving people time and money and stress. Sometimes we move people from state to state to be by their loved ones. I don't know that that's avoiding the pitfall, but it's a solution. So those are just a few examples of how we can, yeah, sure.
What inspired you to do this?
Well, I was raised by my paternal grandmother, and I've been around her as a young child and her siblings, and I've always had this respect for the elderly and knowing that they're here to teach us about life. They don't lose their value because of the number behind the years. What really drives me is preserving their dignity and their quality of life because they deserve it. And because I honor them no matter what stage of life they're in. And I feel that as a society, we have to make space for whatever age you are. We have to make space for it. Unfortunately, in our society, we value the productive age group the most. And we tend to not value the elderly as much. Not in all cases, but I think in general, I can say that it's probably true. So what drives me to do this is me knowing that I want to make space for this age group. I want to honor it. I want to look at it for what it is, and I want to give them the best life possible. I want to preserve their dignity. I want to preserve a quality of life to the best of our abilities for them.
Nice. Is there a lesson maybe that you learned when we talk about, okay, so you started to do this and you're in business. Is there something that you learned maybe early on that it still impacts how you do business today?
What I learned is that we sometimes go on with our busy lives without stopping and intentionally. I'll give you an example. So one time I was just talking to a group of people, and I was talking about how we value the productive generation the most and how, sometimes what really plagues the elderly, the biggest lesson I've learned is, if I'm in a group of people and I ask, what plagues do you think the elderly suffer from? I'm going to get all answers from diabetes to congestive heart failure to dementia to whatever. And you know what? Although those things do exist, but the ultimate truth is that what plagues the elderly the most in our society is boredom, loneliness, and sense of loss of purpose. Those are the three plagues that really, are in place. So I was talking about that, and a couple of weeks later, I get a call from this gentleman who's in his 60s, and he said, after I heard you talk, I picked up the phone and I asked my dad if he would come help me with a project. Now, my dad is in his 80s, and him helping with me with a project consisted of him handing me a hammer. I don't remember the last time my dad was so happy. Now, why didn't I think of that? He said. Why did it take you to talk for me to say, I can call my dad. He can just hand me a hammer. So I think those are the lessons that we forget. We forget to involve them.
Wow. You shared a picture once, and I've told you about this, how that affected me.
Yeah.
We were going through, I don't know, trying to get Grandpa to do what we wanted him to do. And you know, he's like, well, I'll go on the roof and I'll do this. And I mean, just what we feel like to be, you know, insane things. And you posted this picture of this elderly man looking into a mirror, and the reflection that he was seeing was a much younger, much vibrant image of himself. And I think it said, this is what he sees. Just that one image hit me, and I was just gave me the biggest epiphany that when I get there, I am not going to see me as this incapable person.
Right.
Right. He doesn't see himself that way. We're projecting that. So I don't know. You just have this way of, through your stories, and maybe it's because of, you know, you being inspired to do this, and you just shared it, that you're able to relay that. And I want to thank you for what you do.
Well, you are so very welcome. And I feel very honored and very blessed, because a lot of people, you know, they search for the purpose in what they do for a living. And I thank God every day for handing us a purpose on a silver platter.
So what's the most important thing as we close out, the most important question that these sons and daughters need to ask themselves as they consider, you know, caring for their aging parents or special needs kids, or
well, am I frustrated? Am I overwhelmed? Do I question whether or not I'm doing the right thing? I'm hearing so many conflicting reports. I cannot even research one more thing on the internet. I'm like, you know, I'm rendering myself ineffective here. I'm so saturated with information. I still feel like I don't know which direction to go. Now, just pick up the phone and just give us a call. And it costs nothing to talk to us. We have, you know, free consultations, free half-hour consultations. So all those questions, or, you know, we're in trouble. Oh my gosh, you know, we don't know, mom or dad are not listening. We know that dad promised he would never put mom in a nursing home, but we see that he is getting so fragile, and the caregiving is taking the biggest toll on him, and we're going to lose him too, because he is physically starting to show signs, you know, of the toll that caregiving takes on them. So anytime you need direction, you have questions, you need someone standing shoulder to shoulder by you to help you manage and navigate through that, is a good time to call. And again, it doesn't have to be the right question. It doesn't have to be, well, I wonder if they do this. It doesn't matter. Give us a call, because if we're not the answer, we will do everything we can. People call me all the time about topics that may not apply to us. You know, I got a call the other day about a 14-year-old. And as I told you before, I don't want my nurses hiding under the desk as if a nuclear bomb is coming, if I say 14. So I have resources. I've called people. I will tell them where to go, what to do. The end result is get help, whether it's with us or whether it's with someone else, or whether we send you someone somewhere else. You know, we're not all things to all people at all times, although we do a lot, but sometimes it's not the right fit. Sometimes it's somebody who lives in Dallas. I get called, hey, mom lives in Dallas. Is there someone like you in Dallas? Absolutely. Let me give you their name and number. Just take the first step of just inquiring. That's all. And chances are you're going to get something out of that phone call or that visit and you'll be better off leaving than before you came, whether you engage in our services or in someone else's services or not. Just make the inquiry, make the call.
That is great.
That would be my advice.
So
do you want me to give you our phone number?
I do. Before you do that, though, I want to ask you, because you brought up someone being in Dallas, and we have listeners all over the country. So when someone is evaluating a service like yours, I mean, what's the most important thing that they should consider when they're considering like that actual service?
Credentials. What are the care manager's credentials? Because there are a lot of people who want to hang a shingle and claim that they can do this, again, because of the opportunity that the demographics is presenting. However, please check the credentials. You know, what are they? Are they a licensed social worker? Are they, you know, is it a nurse that has an RN designation? How much experience do they have? Not every RN is a good care manager. Get references. Inquire in the community. Interview them. Interview 2 or 3 of them if there are 2 or 3 of them in your area, and see who you feel, you know, would best serve your needs. I think really scrutinizing the credentials for me is huge.
Okay, great. So now, thank you for everything. Now let us know how to get a hold of you.
Okay, so our phone number is area code 918-935-2020. 935-2020. And our website is purviewlife.com. And that's P as in Paul, U, R as in Robert, V as in Victor, IEW, life.com.
And what happens when I call? What's the first? What am I calling about? Like, what's the first thing that happens?
Well, I'm just calling to see whether or not you can help me with this. I'm just calling to see if this is something you would do. And my first question to you is, okay, tell me your story. What's the story? Let's go down that path and see whether or not we can bring value to your life or not.
Great. Okay. Awesome. Imane, thank you so much for taking the time. I know we've spent a lot of time, and I always personally enjoy the conversation. So
well, thank you for having me on the show, Clarence. I really appreciate the opportunity. Truly, I do.
Absolutely. Well, have a great afternoon, and we will talk with you later.
Yeah, you too, Clarence. Take care. Bye-bye.
There you have it, Miss Imane Rose. Thank you so much for stopping by and giving us a great interview. I'm sure that all of our sons and daughters out there, myself included, got a ton of value from the tips and tricks that she just shared. This was some insider stuff that she shared with you. So I hope you take it and you use it in helping your aging parents live their best life possible. I want to invite you to check out purviewlife.com today for more information and more help if you need it. She is very truthful when she says that if you call her, whether you use their service or not, you will find an ally with more tips for you. She seriously lives to do this. This is her calling and her mission. So, speaking of mission, we have to get out and get something. We're all business owners here. So, until next week, go do what you have to do in order to own the block.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.